we had not one, not two, but 3 Hell in a Cell matches tonight on WWE Hell in a Cell 2020. And I gotta say, I have been very disinterested in WWE and really North American pro wrestling these last several months. But if there's one thing that's crystal clear, it's that WWE TV, particularly Raw, has more often than not absolutely, positively sucked. But these last 3 to 4 pay-per-views have been the exact opposite. They've been damn good, and tonight was freaking great. What's up? Fred Richani, TSC, your home for sports news updates, interviews, and everything in between. If you're new here, please consider subscribing. I'm here to give you guys my thoughts on Hell in a Cell, HIAC 2020. We're going to recap the results from top to bottom. Also going to be talking about some upcoming WWE cards and the latest WWE news. But man, strong ending to Hell in a Cell. Strong beginning, strong middle, strong ending. One hell of a show, no pun intended. Let's start at the top because I'm sure a lot of people are wondering, who is the new WWE champion? Or is it the old WWE champion? Is there a new Mr. Money in the Bank? Is there a new women's champion? Well, let's dive in. We had our main event, and originally, I was pretty ticked off by this because it was Randy Orton versus Drew McIntyre, and I thought, you know what? These guys will have a great match no matter what, but I really thought Bayley and Sasha Banks should have been the main event, so I was a little annoyed, a little pissed off, not gonna lie, but I said, you know what? Screw it, let's do it. So I watched the match. They had the great match you would expect them to have, so I really appreciated that. I mean, there were quite a few spots here. If I look at my recap to refresh my memory, there's a point where Drew McIntyre hit Randy Orton with a freaking T-bone suplex on the floor through a freaking table. That was wild. McIntyre also took some chair shots throughout the match. Both guys obviously battered and bruised each other against the cell. And yes, the Hell in a Cell for the second straight, I guess maybe the third straight year now, was bright red. I mean, it's not bad, but it is a little tacky. I mean, not everything has to be so colorful, so shiny. So yeah, let's use this to sell action figures or whatever. It'd be nice if they just went back to the traditional steel cell from my childhood, but hey, I get it. But hey, they did do something. They did do a spot very similar to my childhood, very similar to a lot of people's childhoods, and really very similar to some other past Hell in a Cell matches. So they brawled all over the place from pillar to post inside the cell. And what I loved about it is, for the most part, they kept the action in the cell. They emphasized the danger of the cell. It was very much like an old school Hell in a Cell match. I liked that. But what I also liked, and kind of didn't like, was at the end, or towards the end, McIntyre's beating up Orton. Orton wants out. He gets bolt cutters, and he escapes the cell, and it looks like he's running away. Now, I'm assuming Randy Orton, the character, just wanted to lure Drew McIntyre outside. I'm sure he didn't actually want to forego a shot at the WWE Championship. So McIntyre attacked him from the back. Orton slipped through like the Viper he is, went to the top of the cell. And I'm thinking to myself, Randy Orton, who has had, I mean, if you don't count his superplex, which is a tribute to his dad, I can probably count on one hand how many high spots this man has done in his whole career. So he's at the top of the cell. Drew McIntyre follows him. They're brawling on top of the cell. I'm scared to death for both men. Randy magically finds a steel pipe. I guess he planted it at the top of the cell and it didn't fall through during the other two cell matches. I don't know. Takes the pipe, bashes McIntyre's leg, and then Orton tries to escape and go back down the cage. But Drew McIntyre meets him and they're hanging on the wall. Very similar to past Hell in a Cell matches you've seen with this spot. Of course, the most famous one was HBK and The Undertaker, when Undertaker knocked HBK off the cell wall. Of course, there was, I think, one of the more recent ones, Seth Rollins and Dean Ambrose both fell off the cage. So and I think they did the same thing, actually, with Charlotte and Sasha Banks. Spots have been done before, but it felt more organic here, right? Because Orton's such a sneaky douchebag and hit him with the freaking pipe, and he's trying to escape, but McIntyre follows him through. Like, everything in his match did not seem contrived at all. It just seemed like, yeah, a little bit of WWE wackiness, but for the most part, in the WWE universe, to steal a stupid line from Michael Cole, it made sense, right? These guys don't like each other. They want to find out who's the best. One of them is really desperate to finally be world champion again. They're beating the hell out of each other, and one of them obviously is an dishonorable douchebag, that being Randy Orton. So they're on the cell wall. Orton knocks McIntyre off. McIntyre is a big boy, if you don't know. The dude's like, 6'3", 6'4", 235 pounds, whatever he is. Crashes down through the announcer's table, crawls back into the cell because he is a fighting champion. I really like the psychology here. So then, McIntyre, out of nowhere, goes for the Claymore kick, hits it. Actually, no, first he went for a backslide, similar to their finish at SummerSlam, but this time Orton kicked out. Then he hit a Claymore. Orton wisely rolled out of the ring, and then once they got back in the ring, McIntyre's struggling. McIntyre's trying. He's trying to hit another Claymore. He goes for it. Orton ducks. McIntyre goes flying, falls on his lower back and ass, and then Orton hits an RKO. Just one RKO. 1, 2, 3 for the clean pin. And Drew McIntyre's awesome, epic WWE Championship reign is officially over. Randy Orton is officially the new WWE Champion, and overall a 14-time champion, tying Triple H for the second most world title runs in WWE history. That's some elite company. The only guy he's behind, a guy named John Cena with 16. This was a great match. Bravo to both men. Tremendous. Now, I've said this before. I actually was in attendance 11 years ago in Newark, New Jersey for the very first Hell in a Cell pay-per-view when they started doing multiple Hell in a Cell matches on a pay-per-view. And the results varied, to say the least. Fun fact, Cody Rhodes was in the main event of that show. And, we've seen over the years, there's usually one good Hell in a Cell match on the pay-per-view, maybe 2 if you're lucky, but usually 3. To have 3 home runs in the same stipulation match, and that's a little tough, but they delivered here. So, yeah, tremendous match. Randy Orton, your new WWE champion. I don't know where they go from here. I'm assuming if they're going to do the brand supremacy, like they always do every year with Survivor Series, it's going to be Randy Orton versus Roman Reigns. Should be a good match, but seems a little weird. I think, to me, Drew McIntyre versus Roman Reigns might be a more dynamic match on paper, but you never know. Every year, on the SmackDown side of things, for the last couple of years, they've thrown a monkey wrench and they've done something wacky. I don't expect there to be a title change on the SmackDown side, but we saw a couple years ago, Daniel Bryan, right before Survivor Series, won the WWE Championship, changed the whole thing up through, you know what I mean? So, who knows? Who knows? There were some other changes I feel like they made too. Oh yeah, AJ Styles, a year before that one, beat Jinder Mahal to win the WWE Championship and then wrestle Brock Lesnar. So, look, it could happen. We'll see. I don't know. It'll definitely be interesting, though. I'm just trying to refresh my memory here. So, last year, we had a Survivor Series. It was Brock Lesnar versus Rey Mysterio. So, they actually didn't do the champion versus champion. So, technically, they don't have to do champion versus champion. But if they want to do Roman Reigns versus Randy Orton next month, sure. Why not? I should also note that The Undertaker, yes, the man who's allegedly retired, is appearing at Survivor Series for his 30th anniversary. So I'm assuming he'll be in action or at least do some type of segment. God bless The Undertaker. I really don't have any interest in seeing him wrestle anymore. But, hey, I can't blame him if they want to give him a stack of money to at least make an appearance, hit a choke slam, tombstone, and all that jazz. So we kicked off the show with the kickoff with R-Truth defeating Drew Gulak to retain the 24/7 title. I didn't really watch much of the pre-show because it's, a lot of the same, to be quite honest. But, hey, still your 24/7 champion, Mr. R-Truth. By the way, if you're watching live on Facebook or on YouTube, please feel free to take a quick second to like this video. Maybe you want to subscribe. If you're listening on the podcast, feel free to give us a 5-star rating. I'd ask for 6 or 7 stars like Kenny Omega, but unfortunately, they only allow a maximum of 5. So, Michael Vanderon says, Edge got hurt at Backlash. Supposedly, he won't be back for a while. Yeah, they could have Orton hold on to the title until WrestleMania to wrestle Edge, but I've read all these reports about Edge taking... And actually, Edge himself was on record saying it's taking longer and longer for his triceps to heal than he thought because, he is 47 years old. That being said, Edge has worked media before when he said he wasn't coming back whatsoever, and then he did. So, you never know. Hopefully, for his health's sake, he actually is working media, and he will be back sooner than later. But obviously, we hope he heals up because he's definitely an all-time great. So, like I said, R-Truth beat Gulak. We opened the show with the Hell in a Cell I Quit match, and this really did not need to be a Hell in a Cell match. It really didn't. It could have just been a straight-up I Quit match, but they had a great match. Really just awesome back-and-forth action. Jey Uso, who knew that Jey Uso was such a great singles babyface? I mean, a lot of people have kind of looked at Jimmy as like the star of the team, even though both guys are stars collectively. But, man, Jey Uso, another great performance here. The stipulation was if Jey Uso said I quit, he would be removed along with Jimmy from the NOI family dynasty, the Samoan wrestling dynasty. And you know, he essentially, he lost out on a shot to still be a part of the family because he wouldn't call Roman Reigns his tribal chief. So there's that. And yeah, great match. At first, I didn't feel like there needed to be a rematch of this match because they had a great match at Night of Champions. You don't really need to do much after that. It was emotional. It was powerful. Well, what else is there to do? Well, these guys busted each other's asses. Roman Reigns eventually just beat the hell out of Jimmy, or beat the hell out of Jey, excuse me, and then had the, I believe it was the steel steps, and Paul Heyman is begging Roman Reigns not to destroy his cousin. Paul Heyman, his advocate. Referee saying, come on, man, it's your cousin. And then Jimmy Uso, on a bad leg, runs out, covers his brother Jey, like it's the Lion King or something, to shield his brother from further pain. And Roman Reigns, I don't understand how this is the same company that books Retribution and lose multiple times over, that can't book a baby face to save their damn life, that has 100,000 freaking camera cuts. I can't understand how this company that is drowned in a illogical storyline. It's an oxymoron for me to even say illogical storylines, because if it's illogical, it's not really a storyline. But it amazes me that 95% of their stories are garbage, illogical, nonsensical, never followed up on. Yet this one feud and this one character, Roman Reigns, is so damn great. I mean, I'm at the point where, like, if I know a guy signing with WWE, I'm just going to tell them that I'm just going to tell them, yo, lie on your application, say you're like 114th Samoan or something, so they don't screw you up. Because these guys are hitting a home run. So Jimmy's begging Roman, please, Roman, don't. Referee saying, please, Roman, don't. Even Paul Heyman's like, please, Roman, don't. And Roman Reigns gets on his knee and starts crying. And not like in a little sissy way like Seth Rollins last year when he killed himself as a babyface, when he would scream every time he saw Bray Wyatt, like ah, ah, and then of course he blamed the fans like a dumbass. No, this was a professional wrestler, and dare I say a professional actor, crying. Real emotion here. Like, it was amazing. You could cut the tension with a knife, a very nice steak knife. So finally, Roman Reigns collects himself, stands up, locks in the guillotine choke on Jimmy Uso, and he wakes up Jey Uso because he's tapping on Jey because he's trying to fight for his life. Jey quits. Match over. Roman Reigns raises the title. He's still your Universal Champion. He's still your High Chief, your Tribal Chief. And afterwards was one of the best damn moments in WWE TV in a long freaking time. Roman leaves. You know, he's got the, I don't know what you call like the neck guard that they put on the High Chief, but he's got that around his neck and it looks so badass. And he's got, obviously he's no longer wearing the vest. He's got the tattoos and everything. Who should show up but the Wild Samoans, Alpha and his father Sika, and they raise Roman's hands. He's raising the title. Paul Heyman's looking at him like, what the hell did I get myself into? And Jimmy and Jey are in the ring just going like, and Roman's staring at him saying, it didn't have to be like this. Thumbs freaking up. Incredible. Amazing. These guys need to have a job for life. Phenomenal. I don't know where Roman Reigns goes from here, but whew, I'm at the point where I'll straight up say this. in the next brand split, if their LOL is a brand split that they actually honor, and we'll talk about it in a second because it's already acting flimsy. If they continue to have a brand split in the future, if, God forbid, an Uso goes down again with injury and one stays active again, like they are now, or maybe should they just want to separate them, for whatever reason, I have full confidence that these two men, Jimmy and Jay, could be top guys without a doubt at this point, without a freaking doubt. And there's no doubt in my mind that WWE, I don't want to say wasted because Roman Reigns still had some great matches and moments, but in a lot of ways wasted so much opportunity with Roman Reigns. Can you imagine if they did this 5 years ago and how much of a babyface he would have been when he eventually turned back babyface? My God, this character is money. And the only shame is that it's taken place during a shameful period in WWE history where they're further devoid of morals, not that they ever really had that many morals, and where they're really devoid of fans and stands. So that's really the unfortunate part. Plus, it's a down period with ratings, which I don't blame Roman Reigns. The ratings have been slightly higher on SmackDown since he's been back, so shout out to him. And obviously Jey Uso plays a part in that because he's played his role very well too. But yeah, it's like Drew McIntyre's great title run. It's a damn shame it's taking place during the pandemic era. But Roman Reigns, Usos, round of applause. Y'all did great. But the Wild Samoans, I did not expect that. I popped huge for that. That was excellent. Just absolutely excellent. Well done, guys. Well freaking done. We then had the buffer match, the match that's supposed to bring everybody down, and boy, this brought everybody down. Elias beat Jeff Hardy via DQ. This was a boring Raw match. Jeff Hardy got his revenge by hitting Elias with the guitar. I guess Elias is supposed to be happy he's undefeated. Whatever. Okay, let's skip that. This was another kind of bland TV match for the most part, but it had a good finish, or at least an interesting finish. WWE Money in the Bank contract match. The Miz defeated Otis to win the Money in the Bank contract. Now, as I mentioned at the top of the show, I haven't really been too keen on a lot of North American wrestling these days. With some AEW stuff kind of makes me cringe, even though they have some good action here and there. A lot of WWE stuff makes me cringe, at least on TV. Again, the pay-per-views have been really good the last few months. I think ever since the hemorrhoid that was Extreme Rules, SummerSlam's been good, Payback was good, Clash of Champions was good, and this was good. But yeah, this match was just kind of a match until Tucker of Heavy Machinery took the briefcase, hit Otis with it. Miz looked shocked, pinned Otis, and he is now Mr. Money in the Bank. A few observations here. Whatever happened with Otis when the initial COVID outbreak happened really killed his character. And I feel like, honestly, even before that, it started being killed because he just got overexposed. And I'm not talking about him wrestling practically naked. I'm talking about overexposed just to character. And you guys who have been following me know I'm a huge Otis fan. I really like him, and I think he'd be a fun character to watch and everything. And if you want to occasionally put him in some top matches, okay. Like, I think he's a very talented performer. He's also a legit athlete, too. But the more I heard him talk, the more they booked him in the segments at Mandy Rose, after WrestleMania, I should know, not before. The more I was just kind of like, okay, this is getting a little old. This is getting a little much. And I was happy when he won Money in the Bank because at the time, it was at the height of the pandemic, although unfortunately it looks like we're getting to another height, which is terrible. Hope y'all stay safe. So we needed something fun, or at least I felt like as WWE fans, we needed something fun. And it was a fun thing. I thought it was cool. You have a year to figure it out, whatever. But then he just kind of disappeared. Out of sight, out of mind. And then he had this never-ending feud with The Miz and John Morrison. And then according to the video package that they showed before the match, they had a fake court case with JBL and Ron Simmons. And I love me some APA, but it was wacky and it set up this match. All right. Hey, Teddy Long appeared, so that's fine by me. I'm happy whenever Teddy Long can get a paycheck, but very wacky. And it's very wacky to set up a match with such serious repercussions, which is Money in the Bank, which means you could get a title shot for up to a year. Anyway, so Miz got the pin. Morrison shocked. Miz is shocked. Backstage, Miz puts the WWE Champion and the Universal Champion on notice. Tucker says he didn't do it for Miz. He did it because Otis put Heavy Machinery in his rear view, even though he's the one that helped Otis. Otis can't even tie his own shoes without me. And then Otis attacked all the men, and Tucker ran away. Now, you might want to say, this is actually a pretty good feud, right? They're former tag team partners. They've been best friends. This is perfect, right? This makes perfect freaking sense, right? Well, let me take a sip of my water and I'll tell you why it doesn't make sense. Oh, that was good. It doesn't make sense because Tucker is on another show. I believe Tucker's on Raw and Otis is on SmackDown. So unless they want to do a special inter-brand Survivor Series match, which I guess they could do, it really makes no sense to feud these guys, considering they're going to be on separate brands. Now, you could do a deal where Tucker reveals that he separated Mandy from Otis all along, and he trolls Otis and says, nah, you can't catch me, and you can't catch it because you're on a different brand. I guess you could do that, but it's not really all that compelling because it's Otis and Tucker. It's not Sasha versus Bayley. No offense, guys. So I guess they'll do a match at Survivor Series. I guess Otis will win. I might be the only person on planet Earth, but I actually really like Tucker. He's got great size. Every time I've heard him on the mic, he's actually surprisingly been decent. He's got a great look. And, while Otis is was at least the apple of Vince's eye for a while, because he's funny and pudgy, and I'm sure Vince loves that kind of humor, Tucker is the size and the look that Vince McMahon tends to like. So, I don't know. Maybe there's hope for Tucker. Doesn't seem like it right now, but I do think he has the goods that if he's given somewhat of a fair opportunity, and based on what we've seen with Retribution and other guys, doesn't seem like he's going to get a fair opportunity. But if he was going to get one, I think he actually could succeed as a heel. But we shall see. This kind of came out of the blue, though. And, yeah, I don't know. In retrospect, maybe they should have done this a couple months before the brand split, just to tie up that loose end. But, okay. Then we had my favorite match, maybe my favorite match of the year. And one of my favorite, maybe it'll go down as one of my favorite matches of all time, honestly, just because it really kind of called back to their past matches. And for the longest time, right, Sasha Banks and Bayley have had really good WWE careers. But it wasn't until this year where you could really say, man, they've had great WWE careers. Because for the longest time, WWE's left a lot of money on the table with both women in favor of Charlotte Flair and Becky Lynch. And nothing against Becky, she's great. Nothing against Charlotte, she's great. But, the women's division isn't just supposed to be two blonde women. I mean, technically Becky Lynch is straight fire, but she's naturally a blonde woman. I'm just saying, you need diversity. You need different. Okay, there's room at the top for more than just one or two women. And Sasha Banks and Bayley have been knocking on the door for a long time. And they really, kind of like Randy Orton this year and Drew McIntyre, really stepped it up. And they've done a great job being some of WWE's MVPs. Asuka belongs in that conversation too. And what can I say? They've had a great feud. I do think that this would have been better served holding this off till WrestleMania and holding off the breakup till around Royal Rumble time, because they've been the best parts of Raw, SmackDown, and even NXT at times throughout this whole year. But forget those circumstances. We're at where we're at right now. Easy for me to say. And Banks and Bayley had an incredible match. Just an incredible match. Very physical. They say whenever two fighters fight in MMA, if they're friends, usually they go harder than they would if they weren't friends. And this is kind of similar, obviously in a predetermined setting, but still a great pro wrestling match right here. There were some really painful looking spots, including Bayley hitting a sunset flip powerbomb on Banks into a steel chair in the corner. Banks looked like she banged the back of her head on this chair. It looked like it sucked. There was also Banks hitting the meteor knees on Bayley on the outside. There were a lot of near falls, too, with Bayley escaping the Banks statement multiple times and Banks kicking out of the Bayley flying elbow. There was a point in time where Bayley tied Banks in between the ring apron and ring skirt to punish her with kendo stick shots. Bayley tried to do something with the kendo sticks, but it didn't comply. But you know what? That's okay. In a real fight, sometimes you have a game plan and things don't work out, right? I might be a fighter and say, you know what, I plan to armbar you. And somebody might say, you know what, that's not going to happen. I mean, look at Habib. Justin Gaethje was probably like, you know what, I'm going to tag Habib. I'm going to defend these takedowns, and I'm going to knock his ass out. Well, what happened? Instead, Habib took him down, triangled him, choked him out. It's all well and good to get punched in the face or hit with a kendo stick or try to put two kendo sticks together for something. So Sasha Banks thought on her feet very quickly and went right to the next spot, which is a fire extinguisher spot, sprayed the fire extinguisher in Bayley's face and slammed her into the cell multiple times over, hit the Meteora. Back in the ring, Banks beat the hell out of Bayley with the kendo stick. Bayley crawled to grab a steel chair on the mat, but Banks stomped her out and then hit a frog splash, but Bayley held up the steel chair to block it. Bayley slammed Banks' face against the floor outside and got a ladder from underneath the ring. She set up the ladder between two chairs in the ring, slammed Sasha's face and chest onto the steel, and then she laid Banks across the ladder as Bayley spray painted her to mark like an X, and then flew off the middle rope with a steel chair. But Banks moved, and so Bayley ate some steel. Banks then hit the Meteora off a chair onto Bayley into the corner, followed by a belly to Bayley on the ladder for a 2 count. Then Bayley countered, hit a knee, hit a belly to belly on Banks, another kick out. Then Bayley got the chair, smashed Sasha Banks' back. Finally, Banks tripped Bayley into the chair, wrapped it around her neck and face, and submitted Bayley with the Banks statement. And what I loved about this was there was a nice callback to their NXT Brooklyn match from back in the day, where you may recall Bayley and Storyline went into that match with I think either a damaged arm or hand. And so when Sasha had the Banks statement, she would also axe kick on the floor. She would kick the freaking arm and the hand. Well, Banks did this, but instead of kicking the hand, she kicked the neck and kicked the steel chair onto Bayley's face, forcing Bayley to tap out. Got the win. Sasha Banks becomes SmackDown Women's Champion for the first time in her career, and finally, after 3 tries, wins a Hell in the Cell match. I can only hope, as a huge Sasha Banks fan, that she finally makes at least one, I'm just asking for one, successful SmackDown or Raw Women's title defense, because as we know, or many of us know, every time she wins a title, she never successfully defends it. So hopefully she'll be able to defend it successfully. But excellent match. This may damn well top the NXT Brooklyn and the Iron Woman match that they had 5 years ago. I think maybe it does, just because both women are matured and they're better workers than they were back then. And you know, all these years you keep hearing about how Bayley and Sasha Banks had that great match, and there was nothing that could ever top that, right? It's like their best days were back in NXT. It's like when Nas dropped Illmatic, he'll never top that. But no, I think they topped it, and this year they have topped close to anything they've done in the past, and it's great. It's great to see. Again, it's a shame it's during the pandemic era when less fans seem to be watching and caring than ever, but they did a tremendous freaking job, so bravo to both women. And yeah, that is not 1, not 2, but 3 great Hell in a Cell matches. I would say damn near 3 great Match of the Year candidates. Now, I haven't watched the New Japan Pro Wrestling G1 beyond a couple of matches. I'm sure there's a lot of great Match of the Year candidates there. I believe, wasn't there a match in AEW that was pretty great earlier this year? Was it? I think the Young Bucks and Adam Page and Omega tag team match was earlier this year. Feels like a lifetime ago because obviously everything's changed since March. But yeah, I mean, there's been some good matches. There's some great matches. But man, on one show, 2 to 3 Match of the Year candidates, especially on a WWE show at that, phenomenal. What was not phenomenal was the final match we'll get to, which wasn't the main event. This took place in between the last 2 Hell in a Cell matches. Bobby Lashley defeated Slapjack of Retribution with both factions barred from ringside to retain the U.S. title. I don't know who Slapjack's supposed to be, but he seemed pretty athletic. But Bobby Lashley got the clean win, and this marks the 2nd straight loss for Retribution. They lost on Raw inexplicably to Hurt Business, then got destroyed by Bray Wyatt, so make that 2 losses, and then got destroyed here. That's 3 losses. Ridiculous. All right. Who is Slapjack supposed to be? I have no idea. Honestly, I probably shouldn't even care. I don't know. Is it Shane Thorne? I have no idea. Who is Slapjack in Retribution? Let's see who Slapjack is in Retribution. Oh, it is Shane Thorne. All right. Okay. Cool. That's fine. He did fine here, but he lost again. Not that I was advocating anybody in this bum-ass group to win here, but man, they reveal Mustafa Ali as the leader. They reveal him as the hacker, and then in their first match with Mustafa Ali, they lose, and then they lose again. Like I said, how is this the same company that books Roman Reigns and the Usos so great and books the rest of the roster so damn poorly? It's almost like Paul Heyman has something to do with it, right? Oh, well, you know what? I'll say this. Banks and Bayley has been booked great, but it's two best friends, and they seem to have Vince's ear. So imagine that. Anything that doesn't involve Paul Heyman or the wrestlers getting involved themselves tends to be dog crap. Wow. That being said, overall, a massive freaking thumbs up for Hell in a Cell 2020. Let's get to some of the feedback here because I know a lot of people got some comments and things to get off their chest. Mr. Racer 1029, what's up, bro? I haven't seen you in a while. CM Punk is going to beat Roman Reigns for the title in your dreams. Like that'd be kind of cool, but I don't think it's going to happen. Okay, Slapjack is Shane Thorne. All right. They couldn't give him a better name than something that you should look up. Well, maybe you shouldn't look up in the Urban Dictionary. Sasha versus Becky for the SmackDown Women's title. Nana, I'd say yes, except for the fact that Becky's about to be a mother, so I don't think that's happening. Mr. Loki says Vince always books himself into a corner. That's true. Sasha Banks versus Bianca Belair for the women's title at WrestleMania. I would love to see that. The Boss versus the Best. Hell freaking yeah. I'm a huge Bianca Belair fan. Plus, she makes her own gear. She's great. She's great. She's got a great look, great physique, good in the ring, can talk, makes her own gear, just all kinds of swagger about her. I mean, she's awesome. She really kind of reminds me a lot about Sasha Banks coming out of NXT. Now, I hope that she has a better going than Sasha Banks initially out of NXT, because it took some time for Sasha. Remember, she had to be in Team Bad and all this other crap before she finally found her footing. Hopefully, it'll be less time for Bianca to find her footing and win a title. We'll see. We'll see. But Sasha, Bianca would be great. Okay, Michael Van Doren says Dave Meltzer would give you 5 stars. I hope so. I interviewed Dave Meltzer. That's in the archives if you want to browse on YouTube or in the podcast feed. TSC News Podcast, by the way, if you want to find it on Spotify, SoundCloud, iTunes, or Apple Podcasts, wherever you find your damn podcasts. The show ended like that with no Fiend, no Miz, nobody, just Orton standing tall to close out the show. I'm actually fine with that. I was convinced that Bray Wyatt would ruin another Hell in a Cell match. I was convinced he would ruin another Hell in a Cell match like he did last year. I was convinced that WWE would ruin a Hell in a Cell match for the 3rd straight year, but no. They ended it clean. Randy Orton got the win. I'm happy with that. I'm totally fine with that, man. Totally fine. If we do get Rock versus Reigns at Mania with no fans, I can see it being a cinematic match. That'd be dope to do it near their home in front of other Samoans. Yeah, I'm kind of sick of the cinematic matches at this point, but I'll tell you this. If there's 2 guys that could pull it off, it's Roman Reigns and one of the best actors in the world, The Rock. Yeah, that is for sure. If it's produced by $7 Entertainment and not World Wrestling Entertainment, I think you're right. I think it'd be great. But I would actually try to hold it off if they could. Hold it off at least until like SummerSlam or something. Like whatever the first WWE show is that you could do at full capacity. Like, I don't care if you have to change the name to make it sound better, like Super Showdown or Rocktober or whatever. That's the show you should probably book Roman Reigns versus The Rock. Or you know what? Actually, I mean, WrestleMania is WrestleMania. You probably want to do it at WrestleMania. But since they're doing the 30th anniversary of The Undertaker, maybe you could do the anniversary of The Rock. The Rock debuted at Survivor Series 96, maybe Survivor Series 21. You do something with Roman Reigns and him. Who knows? I think as long as The Rock keeps himself healthy and in good shape, and obviously he looks to be in phenomenal shape, I think they'll be fine. Although I don't know with all those muscles if he looks great. But the last time he looked great with all those muscles in a wrestling match, and I was in attendance for that, he tore like 3 muscles against John Cena and then hasn't wrestled since. Okay, technically, he pinned Eric Rowan in like 4 or 5 seconds at WrestleMania 32, but that doesn't count. The last time he actually really wrestled, was WrestleMania 29. So I would imagine he might for his sake, not that I'm a nutrition expert, he might want to drop a little bit of that muscle mass. But, I mean, Rock's looking great these days. I mean, he always does. But Rock and Roman Reigns, yeah, I would love to see that at some point. Do you think Brock Lesnar will come back? Yeah, I think he will. I think all this stuff with him being a free agent, just a negotiating ploy. I don't think he wants to get punched in the face again in the UFC. If we're being honest, I'm not judging, shading, whatever. He did fail a USADA test a couple years back after his fight with Mark Hunt. I don't think he wants to have some dude go to Bumble F Canada and watch him take a piss, you know what I mean, for a drug test at 6 a.m. I really don't think he wants that. I think he'd rather just kind of do his thing and make easy money in WWE. And in fairness to Brock, look, he's a great wrestler, one of the all-time greats, and I actually enjoy him more often than not. So I would like to see Brock Lesnar back. I would love to see Brock in Bellator, actually, and fight Fedor in Bellator, maybe in Russia. But I don't think that's going to happen. So, yeah, I think he'll eventually be back. But, fun fact, he just got added to the EA Sports UFC 4 roster. Now, knowing Brock Lesnar, I would assume that he's getting money for that when pretty much every UFC fighter, unless you make a special deal, doesn't even get a cut of the video game, which is crazy, right? It's insane. But I would imagine Brock Lesnar made some type of deal in order to be added to the roster after the release date. So maybe that's a little hint or a little jab at Vince saying, hey, they added me to the video game, Vince. You could lose me. But I don't know. Well, either way, even if Brock Lesnar's just calling Vince's bluff, historically Vince has paid him millions of dollars multiple times over for the last 8 years. So I don't see why Vince McMahon would stop paying him. As for what you would do, I mean, you know, you could do a Brock-Drew McIntyre rematch where maybe Brock wins this time. You could do a Randy Orton-Brock Lesnar rematch where Randy Orton wins this time. You could do Brock versus Roman again. I don't know. It'll be interesting. Have you heard about Daniel Bryan saying on Talking Smack this is his last run? Yeah, I did. And while you can never say never in wrestling, Bryan is in his late 30s now. He's getting up there in age. He's getting up there in miles, and he does have another child now. He has 2 children. So, yeah, as sad as that makes me feel, I can absolutely see that. And if this is his last run, hopefully this run lasts at least a couple more years, because the wrestling business needs Daniel Bryan more than Daniel Bryan needs the wrestling business right now. He's great. Daniel Quintas, thank you for the show. Hey, thank you for watching and listening. I appreciate y'all. I'm not crazy about giving Miz Money in the Bank. Yeah, John Marie, I'm not either. I'm a Miz fan and everything, but Miz has not been booked like a top guy for a very long time. If he had some momentum, if this was Miz from like a few years ago when he had that great run as Intercontinental Champion, and you may recall back in 2017, he pinned, or maybe 2018, he pinned Roman Reigns in a great match on Raw to win the Intercontinental title. So if it was the Miz that pinned Roman Reigns back then to win the Intercontinental title, I'd say, yeah, Miz has Mr. Money in the Bank. That'd be great. Now, though, no. Now, can you take Miz a little bit more seriously than Otis at this point? I think you can, but I don't know. You know, here's what I would do, and it is kind of wacky to do this because the Money in the Bank briefcase has only changed hands once, like certain parts of the year. So like once a few times in WWE history. So there was 2007 where Ken Kennedy won the briefcase at WrestleMania 23 in a really underrated Money in the Bank ladder match. And then about a month or so later, Edge beat him because Kennedy got misdiagnosed by a WWE doctor, and I guess his injury was believed to be worse than it really was. So Edge won it and then cashed in on Undertaker, and the rest is history. I think that was is that the only time? I think that might have been the only time. The other times I know John Cena cashed in and failed. Damian Sandow cashed in and failed. Baron Corbin cashed in and failed. Braun Strowman cashed in and failed. So, okay, yeah. So this is, I think, only the second time in WWE history where the Money in the Bank briefcase has actually changed hands, not a failed cash-in, so to speak. So, look, this year's been wacky. Again, we're in a pandemic era with low ratings anyway. You could do a deal where Miz holds on to this for a couple months, and then you do a TLC match at the TLC show where, since the Money in the Bank briefcase is supposed to be usually defended in a ladder match, you could do a ladder match where Miz loses to somebody and then another person holds on to the briefcase. You could do that. Me personally, I'm kind of sick of the Money in the Bank pay-per-views, even though I like them and they're historically good pay-per-views, kind of like Hell in a Cell. I really wish they'd just be stipulations again, because it means a lot more when you do a Money in the Bank ladder match at WrestleMania than on a standalone pay-per-view. And it means a lot more when you do a Hell in a Cell match when a feud requires it, as opposed to, hey, it's a Hell in a Cell, we got to have Hell in a Cell matches. Although this was the rare year where they actually had feuds coincide with the Hell in a Cell stipulation. So, but yeah, I agree with you. I'm not the biggest fan of Miz holding the Money in the Bank right now. It's 2010 all over again. Randy is the WWE champion and Miz is the Money in the Bank holder. That's right. That's right. He did cash in on Randy Orton. You're right, but I completely forgot about that. That's true. That's true. Daniel Bryan versus CM Punk, WrestleMania 38. Sure, why not? I can see that happening down the road, but I don't know. CM Punk does not seem to be in good terms with WWE. I don't feel like he did a good job with his comeback going to WWE backstage, although who am I to argue with the man's wallet, right, and his bank account? I'm sure he's still doing very well for himself despite that. And look, if he's not cool with WWE, if I'm AEW, I try to reopen negotiations again, because after watching some of their stuff lately, they could definitely use more guys to know how to work and have good instincts. What did you think about MJF and Chris Jericho's musical segment on Dynamite? I hated it, not because those guys didn't do a good job in it, but because in the context of a wrestling show that you're supposed to take seriously, when there's a world title tournament going on and neither guy's involved for whatever reason, and MJF's barely wrestled these last couple of months when this is the time they really got to build him up, I just found it really unnecessary and out of place. So, yeah, although what annoyed me even more was in the main event when I forgot who it was a Private Party. They hit Alex Reynolds with like a dual dive, similar to like the Hardys back in the day. And poor Alex Reynolds got like stiff, knocked out, whatever the case may be, suffered a stinger. And all these guys are just doing spots. And the Young Bucks are making this poor guy who just got knocked out do spots. And nobody, including the referees, noticing for minutes on end that this poor dude's been knocked out. I mean, look, WWE's had some horrific safety protocols too, especially this year with COVID. I mean, I'm not going to, absolve WWE, but, I got to call it like I see it, man. AEW's been very reckless with some injuries lately and just, overall protocols lately. WWE in general, by the way, well, first off, WWE in general has been obviously very lax with protocols, although they've gotten better. But they are under investigation by Florida. They are under investigation. The Thunderdome's under investigation. The Performance Center's under investigation. And Full Sail's under investigation as areas within Florida that have led to outbreaks or could be fostering potential outbreaks. And to the best of our knowledge, even though we don't know all the names, WWE's had at least 2 outbreaks. So, yeah. I do think that, Florida cracking down's a good thing. Although, look, they have the governor by the balls because he's a Trump kiss ass and they donated a lot of money to the campaign. So we'll see what happens. I mean, look, a lot can change after election depending who wins anyway for WWE as far as laxing on the rules and whatever the case may be. Although, again, better late than never, but they did improve protocols over the last few months. What do you think about the recent indie outbreak? Oh, yeah, that was with Joey Janelle, I think, and GCW and the Collective these last couple of weeks. All I'll say is this. If you're an indie wrestler or indie worker or whatever, doing something in the indies, get tested. Require people to get tested. My boy Leon St. Giovanni gets tested regularly, still wrestles. He's had no issues. Other people I know still wrestle, have had no issues because they are responsible. So please, be responsible. That's all I got to say about that. Okay, a couple more. Emmerich Smith says, Sasha and Bayley was dope. I agree. Tucker needs a push. It looks like he's getting a push at least for 5 minutes, so we will see what happens. Do you think Wade Barrett will ever wrestle again now that he's back in NXT as a commentator? I'd love to see him wrestle, but as somebody that was a huge fan of his, that was pained by how awful his WWE career turned out to be. Okay, he had a good WWE career, but compared to the potential, it was awful, right? It was awful. It was like a number 1 overall pick that made the playoffs once or twice and never made it to the finals. It's kind of what Wade Barrett's career was like in WWE. He really should have been a bigger star because he's always had the goods. But I could see him wrestling. If I were him, I'd probably stick with NXT and NXT UK for now, just because you know that the main roster is going to ruin him. But if there's the opportunity down the road, why not? Who knows? Him and Sheamus as a team, or him attacking Drew McIntyre and feuding down the road, that'd be dope. But again, it's main roster WWE, you can only trust it so much. All right, well, that's about it, folks. I hope you enjoyed this recap. If you did, please like, share, take care. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications for more updates like this. Until next time, as always, enjoy the matches and please stay safe. Facebook, thank you so much.